Hmm. Okay. I think we're live now. So thank you everyone for being here. My name is Chana. I'm the managing director at the Catastrophic Theater, and we are so excited to be co-presenting, to have co-presented the recording of our 2018 production of Chana Porter's Leap and the Net Will Appear with Houston Cinema Art Society, and I'm joined with Michael Robinson, who is representing the Houston Cinema Art Society today. And we will jump into our conversation here pretty soon. Just wanted to please invite anyone who has the ability to do so right now to donate to the Catastrophic Theater. Your donations help us continue to do programming such as this Q&A and recording, and helps us support the artists that are behind this work. So please do consider doing that if you can. Michael.
Jenna, thank you so much. Like Jenna was saying, I'm with the Houston Cinema Art Society. We're a Houston-based film society that puts on an annual film festival every year, the Houston Cinema Arts Festival.
Is this Q&A in
November. We are having a virtual festival this year because of a pandemic, and that will be happening in the middle of November. So stay tuned to our social media as well as our website for further updates and to buy passes. We were scheduled to have a live Q&A tomorrow with director, producer, and Academy voter Shola Lynch on her film Chisholm 72, which you can now rent via the MFH virtual platform. But with Hurricane Laura, we have decided to postpone. So stay tuned to our social medias, Cinema HDX, to figure out any updates. We also do want to acknowledge the impact of Hurricane Laura that's coming into the Houston area, including Beaumont, Nacogdoches, and the coastal regions of Eastern Texas and Western Louisiana. Our hearts are with those in Laura's path. We also do want to thank everyone at Catastrophic. We're so happy to have community in the arts right now during this period, and it's just so amazing to work with y'all. So thank you all so much for affording us this opportunity.
Yay! Okay, so I think we're ready to get this Q&A started. Rob Shimko, Catastrophic dramaturg and the director of the University of Houston School of Theater and Dance. Please, if you would start your moderation.
I will moderately start my moderation. Thank you, Chana. So Chana, because you're joining us, I'd like to be able to ask a question first of the playwrights when we have the opportunity to do so. This is a play that I think it's fair to say grew a lot from its first inception to the filmed version. Could you talk a little bit about the process of working with the Catastrophic Theater, also working with this director, this particular cast, and sort of what you recall of the arc that the play took in its development?
Chana.
How about now? Yeah, now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. So, garbage like that. I just wanted to say that. So I wrote this play first draft on a silent writing retreat, and it came through in like a subconscious rush. And I did that back in 2011. So then I spent from there until 2018 trying to parse out like what I had done, like what my subconscious mind had done, and all the paths that it let me down, all the twists and the turns. So working with Tara Ahmadinejad was really helpful. We workshopped it in 2016. And she kept saying like, you're not brilliant. I'm not brilliant. This play is brilliant. So we need to keep going back to this play and kind of digging through and finding all of these kind of hidden jewels, because it feels a lot of the time like kind of language driven stream of consciousness nonsense, but every word means something. So there would be a time where we would take out something or try to smooth it or try to make it make more sense. And we would find out that that part was a funny kind of key. And we needed to find out how to unlock that key, rather than trying to force the play to make more standard sense. So then when we found the catastrophic, that was such a perfect kind of match, because they have built, in like a 20-year time span, they've really cut their teeth on these language-driven, thorny, surreal, comedic, dramatic, vulgar, pristine, poetic. It's all there. So there was no place that the play went that they were scared to go to. And then I felt like when we all got to be together, because we were there for the entire time, which was a really special thing, to live with one another and work on this play, and just to enjoy amazing Vietnamese food and tacos all the time. But just being there and really taking it back to the script, and then having this like incredible team of collaborators who trusted me and trusted Tara and trusted the play, so that we like kept allowing the play to be our map. And that's how we found our way through.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So Tara, I'm of course going to go to you next as the director, and Chana set me up with the perfect question, which is, what's so brilliant about this play?
I mean, I think it does a lot of magic tricks. It sneaks up on you, and just as Chana was saying, it like the tonal shifts that it takes on. It's like somehow you're laughing until you're crying, and you don't really know how it happened. And I think that form, it's a really hard thing to do. And it's a really hard thing, I think, for actors to navigate, because you have to kind of trust the ride and like go on it, and also be dexterous enough to take every turn that comes up. So it's like, it's not enough to be like totally passive. You have to be open enough to like let yourself go on that journey. But you also have to like, have that kind of sharpness to not miss any of those moments. And I mean, I think it's really hard to do that in a play. But I think that is so much more like what life feels like a lot of the time, especially when you're kind of when you're really in life in the present tense, and then also zooming out and thinking and like beholding your life from a distance, and the kind of interplay between those two vantage points. And I think the play kind of takes all of that on, and holds it together, and like doesn't let you go until the end. I think it's also, I mean, I'm remembering the process too, as Chana was talking, and just remembering how kind and brave everybody we met was. And that's what the play is, also kind and brave. And yeah, I think that's what makes it brilliant.
One thing I'll note now that we of course always are curious for questions and remarks and observations from whoever is listening in. So please feel free to add those in the chat, and Chana will include them for us, and we'll get to them. We've got about 45 more minutes left in this conversation, so we have plenty of time to get to additional questions. But Tara, let's return to this for a second. Were there particular, because it's such a heavily theatrical and imaginative play, were there moments that were maybe at first, like, at first blush, how are we going to stage this? How are these moments going to work, that when they, like when you figured it out, or when, the collective figured it out, that you were able to say, that's something very satisfying to experience in the theater. I'm looking into my own memory for moments that were real standout moments for me.
Yeah, I know it's like, I know this was in 2018, but it really feels like it was 10 years ago, because like this year it's alone feels like it's like 6 years long. So I'm like, when was that beautiful time when we could all make theater together? The images that are coming to mind are of Amy and Mateo like sliding down the curve. And like that is just something that we certainly didn't plan, but even when we like knew what the set was going to be, we couldn't do it, or we just there were a lot of things like that where it was like, well, we'll see when we get into the space, we'll see what happens. One of the challenges of the play is that it keeps changing on a dime, and so the world keeps shifting, and you could do elaborate set changes every scene, but that would be like, it would probably ruin the play. I mean, no, it's fine. You can do that. Anyone can do that. Please direct this play and do whatever you want with it. But I do think that one of the challenges is that it changes so quickly. And so you want to make sure that you support the changes, so you feel the experience of the change without messing with the rhythm. Because that's what Margie's experience in her life, it mirrors her experience, where things just keep changing on a dime and her life keeps just snapping by. And so basically every scene change is like, oh, how are we going to do this? And so that one, we are suddenly in a carnival, and the joke of it only works if the line before the carnival and the line that establishes the carnival are immediately one beat after the other. So, but I think that the set there really helped us kind of, we could change the lights and the sound instantly, and then that curve, we could really like play with it to help create the topsy-turvy carnival feel.
Great. Yeah, it's so much of the feel of the play, in listening to you describe it, is sort of, you were right when you said it's only 2.5 years ago, but it seems forever ago. But so much of the feel of the play is coming back to me as you describe that. You mentioned the character of Margie, and I want to go to Amy Bruce next. So Amy, you've played so many incredibly interesting characters and challenging characters over the years, and certainly your roles with Catastrophic Theater are, sort of legendary in Houston theater, I think it's fair to say. But what was special about this particular role, playing Margie in this show?
Thank you, Rob. It's hard to say. I loved watching the performance last night. It was magical, and it reminded me of some of the really cool. And I feel like this happens every time I do a catastrophic play, is that there's some real reason that I'm supposed to be doing it right now, and there were crazy things like what Chana talked about, that she wrote it in 2011, and like my life had a huge eruption in 2011, and the reveal of Mateo's character name of Jonas, and Jonas is my youngest son, and so there were just these, and then just the whole experience of Margie striving for something, and it's like right there the whole time, is pretty close to home. I remember that rehearsal where we all kind of went like, everybody's perfectly cast for this show, which stung a little bit for me, because I was like, but Margie's like, I'm really different from Margie. Yeah, and the stage directions too were just like, how are we gonna do the golden light, you know, and then how quick everything was. It was so exciting to start it because I had no idea how it was going to come out. And then I, you know, got to see it last night.
That's wonderful. Speaking of, oh, something else?
I just don't know if I answered your question. I hope I did.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, some of what I want to talk about is just what was special about this play for everybody who was involved in it. And the person I was going to go to next actually was Tamari, because I mean, talk about special roles, you know, approached in an interesting fashion. I think I need to ask you about your role in the proceedings.
Sure.
Simon.
So I originally wasn't auditioning for this play. Jason and I had read it and gone completely bonkers for it, and we're like, this is a catastrophic play. And then there was this strange magic that happened meeting Tara and Chana when they came in for a weekend for this workshopping and casting. And I don't know, I was just having such fun with the energy in the room and all of that. And I was also the reader with all the people auditioning. And then as we rounded out the weekend and we're finalizing our casting, they asked me if actually I would consider, and I thought, okay, well, wait, they've shown me the list. So I see the other women cast already. Like, who are they asking? And then they said, would you be Simon? And it made complete sense to me because Simon is essentially my dad. So it wasn't really like a far shift to be playing this like kind of Jewish vaudevillian. That's very much in me. I wouldn't say that I've been cast a lot in male roles. So that was kind of freeing and exciting too. And I would say this was something about the whole process. When they came in, when Hannah and Tara came in for this audition, it was so like mind opening the way they approached the auditions and the casting in general. There was nothing set in stone by gender, by age, by race. It was just, well, let's read this person for this part. Well, how about we have her read this guy? And it just was so freeing in a way that, quite frankly, we haven't often approached casting at Catastrophic. So that really was just this really refreshing new thing. And then for me, then to come out of that, getting to sort of have this part that is this sort of homage to my dad, it was something. Plus, men wear really comfortable clothes and shoes.
I want to go, of course, to the rest of the actors. But before we do, Hannah and Tara, I'm wondering about your reaction to that casting choice. Did it, I mean, make intuitive sense immediately, or did it take time to sort of imagine it that way?
I mean,
the casting of Tamari? Oh, I just was reiterating the casting of Tamari specifically.
Yeah. We knew this process, we had talked a lot about how this play is about what your secret self feels like, what your interior feels like, and how a lot of the time what is projected on your physical self might not be in alignment with how you feel. So we knew that we wanted to look very expansively, and at the same time, I think because there are these broad characters like, you know, the overbearing husband, the like well-meaning but kind of schlocky Jewish parents, we wanted to be flexible with those archetypes and find people that sort of spoke to like a subtler thing about them. Like there's something about casting Pamela too as the mother. Like there was a lot of people that we saw that could have done like the overbearing Jewish mother thing, and we had to kind of coax that out of Pamela more, but she had this like innate kind of tender quality that felt very in alignment to what her character would turn into. So I think there's something about everyone has such like dramatic shifts. Finding someone who can maybe not do the like easy thing that they've always done, but really play the like kaleidoscope. That was how we thought it through. Tara, do you have more to say to that?
I think you said it beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'll go on to Jovan then, who also, again, like everybody in the play in their own way, stands out in my memory. Jovan, what do you remember of this character in this play?
Mike.
Oh no.
Mike.
There we go. That's better. I think my memories are more about the process. What an enjoyable thing it was. Most of the plays, I think about what an enjoyable process it is, going from getting a script, reading it, liking it, auditioning for it, and then getting in the rehearsal room and discovering so much more that you didn't see, in your first reading. And I thought that this process was probably one of the most fun processes. Tara, I think all the physical work that we did in rehearsal stood out to me and was really, I think, a key component. Before we started going live, I was saying that one of the things I liked was how snappy we ended up making it with all these, on paper, impossible shift changes. And then for the final product to be so snappy and together and concise, I think a lot of that was due to the rehearsal process and how much work we did together as a group, and all the trust that we had that this impossible thing was going to be possible. And that process really stands out to me, and that was really enjoyable. And then getting to see Mateo, I don't know, I'm a big fan, Mateo. I don't know, I love the rehearsal with you, because I don't know, you crack me up in everything you do. So yeah, it was great. And yeah, Jaden like the moon, but we didn't have too many seats together. But yeah, the process was great.
Well, since you mentioned both of them, let me go to actually Mateo and Jaden as a unit, which sort of makes sense. And maybe you can talk about the relationship, the building of the characters, and also just recollections of the process.
I'll start with just something that Jovan said. When I saw this script, it looked impossible, but I've always loved Catastrophic's work and the things that Catastrophic did, and I trusted them with this piece. And so that's, I think the start of it was thinking like, okay, I have literally no idea how we're going to make, a monkey man and like this dream sequence, and then these people shifting and saying things that are conversations, and then suddenly they're just speaking in archetypes. It was such a magical thing in general that I think coming into it, and Jaden gave so much every moment of rehearsal. He was just at the height of emotional openness, and that I think was the core of this piece, was just the trust that somehow it would all shift together and mold into something from the indescribable, just like brilliance of the original text.
Yeah, it was really interesting with this show, because I, like everybody else has said, that the language is just so cunning, and it really pushes boundaries. I feel like that a lot of times we don't really get to deal with, I guess. We're flickering from one scene to another, but it's really just in movement and and going from being like this to being like this in a different moment. And things like that were so challenging. And I don't know, it made the process for the show really, really exciting and interesting. And I mean, it was just really, really challenging. It was really, really just a fun show to do. Yeah.
Thank you both.
When we were in rehearsal, one other thing that, which I know I can be frustrating in rehearsals. Don't laugh, Tamara, a little bit. But in the script, reading the script, one of the things that I loved about the script, but was obvious to me, was how stylized this is. And in rehearsal, I felt like, when are we going to get to talking about how to do this stylization? Like, when are we going to start working on making this how it's supposed to? Because it's stylized. When are we going to start doing that? And, you know, instead we're working on moving and together. And next thing you know, it all came together, and the style was created without ever really having to define it and specifically sit down and work it. And I think that's you, Tara, and definitely Hannah, for being able to turn poetry into a play. And you know, I thought that part of the process really stood out to me too. That it seemed, the thing that seemed so impossible is, how do you make poetry a play, and how do you create this style from thin air and everybody be on the same page? And I feel like we really were. So yeah.
That's awesome. So I've got a two-part, or a two-sided question, because it's the same question more or less for two different people. So Tamara, I'm going to ask you to put your artistic director hat on for a moment and reflect back, because this is not the only Chana Porter play that Catastrophic has put on. Could you talk a little bit why Chana is sort of a good fit for the Catastrophic Theater? Why that's a good working relationship? And then, well, the reverse of that is, Chana, I'll ask you to answer from your side of the equation.
I mean, Hannah sort of already spoke a bit about this, as far as how she felt like we can take on the type of material that is happy and sad and funny and strange and dreamlike and surreal and all these things at the same time. And so we often say that our work isn't necessarily plot driven, that it is more dreamlike, that it is more poetic, that we love presenting work that makes you feel versus necessarily just thinking, that you know, creating that intimate sort of connection with the artist and the audience. And all these things, I think, are parts of Hannah's work too. So I don't know, like I said, we literally got this script in the mail and we read it, and Jason and I were on the phone immediately saying, this is a play. This, we got to do this. And then she's just a mensch. I don't know. She's fantastic. And she came down and it was one of those things when you meet certain artists, and I would say this pretty much about everybody in this cast, where we all just, you feel like we've known each other forever. Some of us have, Amy and I have. We've been working together for forever, but I felt that Hannah just sort of instantly felt like part of my artistic family. And I would say too, was such a lovely arrival of Tara in the same manner. We haven't really had a large amount of guest directors come and work with Catastrophic. Most of the directors have been sort of, you know, within the fold. And you never know how that's going to go when you're meeting a new person. But even though there are differences in some ways and bringing different skill sets, and what Jovan was talking about, I know I'm talking about Tara now, but where your stuff with the physical warm-ups and the cock and all that is something new to us. But at the same time, I feel like we have so much of a shared language as well. And then once we got one taste of Hannah's plays, then we just wanted to read more and more and more. And that led us to doing First Suburb. And then we're hoping to do more after that as well.
Yeah, I just want to say, I feel like when I understood, you know, this is the theater company that premiered Susan Laurie Parks before she was Susan Laurie Parks. Like, Maria Irene Fornez was Jason's teacher. You all have done like almost every Wallace Shawn play. It's like, when I heard these kinds of things, I knew that like this is the company that I wanted to keep. And I think that what you're pointing to, I do have language driven plays, and at the same time, they're not like cool. They're not hyper intellectual. They're not meant for you to kind of lean back from them and just think about them. They're meant to be like viscerally, emotionally provocative. and funny and sad and strange and all of the things at the same time, and bodily. So I think there's been times, especially as, you know, fashions come and go in the New York downtown, something that can be a more language driven play is maybe a little bit drier. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little more hard on my sleeve for some. And I just felt like, you know, these like Susan Laurie Parks and Fornes and Wallace Shawn, like these were all the people that I most looked up to. And then I found that there was a place where the imaginative and the theatrical and the emotional was prized, but there was still at the same time like a huge amount of like rigor in terms of language and in terms of this idea of like, we're not just doing weird plays, we're like part of a larger, grander tradition. So yeah, at some point it was very sweet. So Jason, who I hadn't met at this point, called me and was like, we want to do your play. And I was like, great. And he was like, and you should be our resident playwright and we'll do lots of your plays. And I was like, well, let's start with this one. Okay. Because I have some commitment stuff. But it turned out that I do want to do all my plays and Catastrophic.
And just as a side note, you also ended up doing some playwriting teaching over at UH while you were here as well.
Wonderful.
They still talk about you. We'll have to have you back the next time you're in town.
And like, as you can tell from the play, I'm a very food motivated person, and it's something that I think about a lot. And I really think that your city is the best food city in the country, perhaps. So
we'll take it. We'll take any good vibes we can get on this night in particular.
Oh, I'm thinking about you. Yeah.
Well, we've not really had any questions added to the chat, but we have gone for a solid 35 minutes, having just a wonderful time. I wonder if we can maybe lighten up the structure a little bit, or loosen up the structure a little bit. Do folks have particular reminiscences that you want to share? And of course, as we say that, hold that thought, because we did get a question in the chat. So think about just Happy Lou's cocktail hour in a minute. But let's field this audience question first. Let's talk more about the decision for cross-gender casting in the show. And pretty much anybody on the creative team can field that. I don't know if Chana, Tara, Tamari, anybody can field that.
I can talk about it a little bit. Yeah. So basically, I would say that we didn't really make a decision to cast across gender. We just initially from the outset of casting, we were kind of holding on to like various identity markers somewhat loosely, because similar to what Chana was saying, there is a sense with each of these characters that they are all searching for who they want to be, or who they might actually be, or what versions of themselves they're sort of headed towards. So I think the play really kind of resists just like a single box fixed sense of identity for individuals. And so we wanted to kind of embrace that, and in the way we thought about casting. And so just the same way as we are looking at different people, maybe some different ages or races, and just seeing like, how does this person's spirit kind of fit with this character? How does the language of this character sit in this body? And sometimes we learn things from that we couldn't have learned without that audition process. So it was a very illuminating audition process for us. And understanding like the story that a body tells. And I think like in Tamari's case, it wasn't like, oh, Tamari can play a man. it was like, oh, Simon contains these multitudes, and is himself sort of exploring his own gender, though not in a way that is like one-to-one with the way we think about that in regular life, in his very particular idiosyncratic way.
I have to say, I've done many moderations of many talkbacks, and a lot of those plays had, in one way or another, cross-gender casting. I've never heard anybody field that question quite so beautifully or so so profoundly in a way. So thank you for that. That's like the perfect sort of ideal answer for why that kind of casting decision would get made. The containing multitudes image is really something wonderful. I don't know that we're going to do better than that on the decision to cross-gender cast, but we do have a follow-up question for the actors' side. What is that? How is that storytelling different, or is it different? Is it interesting in some particular way? And Tamara, I think we're looking at you.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, from the actor standpoint, telling, playing a man, is that like, what is that? You said that the clothes were comfortable.
Again, maybe it's just the way they said it was something in me. It never felt, I didn't like go home and work on being a man. It just sort of naturally it comes out. And I think just kind of conjuring that energy of that person, that Simon, it affects your physicality. It's like the way you want to kind of move and how you sit and the hands and all that just came out of that. So yeah, we didn't really spend a lot of time working on any specific gender direction. I don't remember.
What was the...
Tamara loved every second of being Simon. She loved every second of. She'd come backstage and be like, Simon, oppa! It was great.
It's true that I have a long history of spending more of my time in the men's dressing room in general on all of our productions. And so this time it was always fun every day to like get the wig on and get the outfit on and then like go into the men's room and they'd all go, Simon! Ba-da-bing! Ba-da-boom! So that was special. You're right.
So yeah, you said bada bing. We like the little short, punchy things that Simon got to say were especially memorable. And I know in my household, we just, quoted the play all the time, when it was going on. Are there particular lines that stand out for you, or even like short little, almost catchphrases?
Well, there was just so many great, like the toast at the wedding, may your disappointments be manageable, just things like that. And then of course there was the Jewish goodbye, where there were so many great moments, including the title of the play. But I've had people after seeing the play still like randomly will say things like trust otters, just these little tiny little moments, and yeah. And then of course whenever we talk about that play, there's always going to be a bada boom, bada bing somewhere in there with a kick.
Yeah.
Now, being Simon, you might have been too close to it, but at least for us, and I'm sad that Pamela couldn't be here.
Yeah.
But you and Pamela were so sweet. Like you guys were such a sweet couple, and your relationship in this play, was really a tender ribbon that ran through, Margie's life. I would
say that this play does really, there was a lot of heart in our production. And I think that is something, speaking to what Tara has said about things turning on a dime, where there would be these ridiculous over the top comedic moments. But I remember when Pamela would turn to me after her love Saul, like she saw him goes away, and it was these little moments of buy me an ice cream, I love you. And I remember being in tears at those moments, because they were real, they were very genuine, peppered in with the big, the big moments, and with with Amy too. So many, I would just say, they're heartbreaking moments of watching Margie's journey.
You're making me think about the funeral too. Just
Yeah.
that totally caught me by surprise. Again, watching it today or yesterday. It's beautiful.
We seem to have loosened up the folks in the audience because we are getting more chat questions. So Amy, and since you're on screen already, the question is: this seemed like a very physical role for you, and the way the question is laid out, it says on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate the physical difficulty? And I'll add sort of like what was physically difficult, or physically challenging, or physically eventful.
I wanted to be a lion, so that was physically difficult. I don't remember. I do remember people saying it back to me though, of like, this was very physical. You were all over the place. How do you do that? I just was so in love with what I read, and just really believed her intense adoration of the lion, and saw that like she's just feeling this from the inside. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 9. A 9 or a 10. I especially that scene where I was crawling all over the bed and jumping on Jovan. Yeah, it was super exciting to do, and I'm still in love. I got to see it last night, and so there were times when I was off stage, doing something to stay warmed up, and that I got to see what was happening on stage, what was physically going on stage, by seeing it, and it was just it's magical, like you said. Super
That's
fun.
Wonderful. Other warm fuzzies from the creative team in our last minutes together tonight before we all get back down the hatches.
I remember, and it was so sweet. I didn't know Mateo except just a little bit before before the rehearsal, and I loved watching Mateo and Jovan like compare how they did their scripts. There was this really sweet moment where like, oh, this is how I bind my scripts, and I do my this size. I'm a scriptophile too, so it's just really lovely to watch them, compare how they did.
You had a very impressive script. I mean, it would rival the most obsessive serial killer that I've ever seen. Like your notes and scripts and margins and pieces of newspaper cut out. That's
deep. All of Amy's scripts. They're always like that. It's amazing. They needed a whole library of Amy's scripts.
Very tactile.
Yeah, if you have all of the scripts of the plays that you've ever done that look like that on one shelf, that is a CSI episode.
I just also want to say the Golden Light was amazing. Jaden, there were just these simple things where you were all those conversations and then the transformation. I didn't get to see those either except until last night. And even on video, it was like, oh, I loved it.
I had a lot of moments like that too, watching it, just because it'd been a while. Watching it back, it was just crazy to think like, man, like some stuff I remembered so vividly from this show, and some stuff I don't think I ever got the chance to see, like the puppet show. I never got the chance to actually watch that, and so that was like such a special treat, to be able to actually watch. I was like, oh, Amy's actually using the puppets, like I don't know, it was just really interesting, and I don't know. It was pretty.
It was fun for me to see you too, Jaden.
He was 19 when we did this.
Yeah.
This was your first show with Catastrophic, and
oh, real? That was the first show.
And now we've stuck you in a bunch of other things since then, of course, but not getting my mitts off you quite yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun for me to see, just like that it was that first moment with you for all of us. So it's cool.
Wow.
But one thing I will note too that I remember super vividly from this experience is Tara's direction for the show. Really, I just felt like my borders constantly, and I felt like everybody's borders were being pushed the entire time. And it was like any kind of moment that we were trying to figure out, that we were trying to venture inwards, it just felt like and we've already kind of said this, but creatively it was just so open, and a lot of things were just being tried. It was just so experimental, I guess, in a lot of ways too. That was so kind of freeing as, you know, as an actor in a show, to be able to be, you know, working on this text that's really interesting to, you know, to be able to travel through, I guess, but to be able to have the help with the direction too. I don't know. I just felt like it was, especially with the movement work and everything, it was just really interesting and helpful. Yeah.
I mean, that's only possible when the actors are kind and brave, like just to repeat that, which, yeah, I mean, it is really just a treat. I mean, it makes rehearsals so fun for Hannah and me, just to see what you guys, like what you'll reach towards, what edges you're willing to hit. So, yeah.
So we do have one more question in the chat. The character of Lawrence seemed to be the least sympathetic, at least to this audience member.
Thanks.
It's probably not the actor. Very, you know, likable actor. But dramaturgically speaking, was Lawrence a foil? Was the intention there purposeful to have Lawrence be kind of a foil character?
I'd love to speak to that. I think that this is a testament to Amy, because I think that Margie is actually the least sympathetic character. And I think like her approach was so tender and so internal that I think all the things that Margie does, you know, if you looked at them in a different light, she's definitely not the hero of the play. And I think that there's some really beautiful lines that I love the way Jovan played this part like very tenderly, from my point of view. I think that in the way that the first half of the play, everyone is more of a caricature. He is a sort of like masculine man caricature. I love so much your the way you would do the speeches about the Roman times. But I think he goes on a really lovely journey too. And I think he's the one to say, like, this isn't all about you, Margie, and to really like give her something that's maybe not like flashy, but it's like grounded and true. So that's my personal point of view, but I'm sure that it can hit other people in different ways.
I think part of it might also just be like so many of the most like delicious laughs early on, like some very memorable comedic moments with Lawrence are in the like caricature-y side of things. Yeah. And so then in the second half, I agree that he becomes more grounded, more tender. And I think that's from a place of like, we start to understand that he actually really does love Margie. And that is what he wants, is to be with her because he loves her and wants to like give her whatever it is she wants. He just doesn't know how to love Margie. And I don't know, you know, who does exactly. But I think when you understand that investment from him in the second half, that's when you start to see his full dimensions. But I do think there's just so many great moments in the beginning part when he's like very aloof, not really seeing Margie, that are just delicious. So
I thought I was tender and sympathetic.
You're so tender.
So sweet.
I think you're definitely in that in the scene in the bedroom where you say, oh, I could be this kind of man and I would look into your eyes and all this. But it was so, I found very tender when you're like, oh, I'm not that kind of man. And then you say, you know, can I make you a sandwich? Which is your callback to the reference between the parents and the sandwich. When you love somebody, you know, make them a sandwich. So yes, I found that too. But I think some of the other characters had literally a larger transformation, like a physical transformation. So like, obviously like the golden light. I mean, Amy's an elephant. Jaden becomes a different person. And Lawrence, maybe his transformation was maybe more subtle in some ways, more grounded, but also more real in that way than some of the other characters, I think.
Yeah.
We're defending you, Jovan, as a tender character.
We are
Mateo over to my house.
we're reaching close to our hour, but we've got a couple more quick ones in the chat, and the last one's a good one to end on, so I'll hold that for a second. But this is mainly a compliment on the really wonderful lighting design and the fact that it informed the script quite beautifully. Actors, from your standpoint, it's sometimes a little difficult to really know how you look under the lights. Were you aware of the influence of the lights on the overall sort of impression or affect of the play?
I mean, I love lights. My dad's a lighting designer, and so like I know that there's lights, but it wasn't until I saw this, like the video, and I mean, I'd even seen the stills from the original photo, but it wasn't until I saw the video, just started going through that, and like, no, I had no idea. I thought I knew, and I did not. It was, the lighting is phenomenal on this.
Yeah, the transition to the carnival scene was just crazy. I mean, that was, lighting wise, it was just really, I mean, it literally was from one moment, one place to another moment, another place, you know? And I mean, the lighting, I felt like added so much to that. I felt like it was really, really cool. Yeah.
And then into the dream bar. And then out of the dream bar. That was nuts. I think what we followed mostly was the sound. Having Andrew there and all of that wonderful sound that he made. And I feel like there was other sound besides Andrew. Am I wrong? But that's more of what I was aware of until I watched the video.
Yeah, it's a shame he's not on this call too, because he really was another essential character in the play. I mean, he brought so much, not just as a musician, but as a presence, as a performer in every way, as an actor. So delightful and such a beautiful voice. Oh, and such a lovely guy too.
Yeah.
We're going to have a special thing with him though, through Cinema Art Society on September 2nd, where he's going to do a mini concert. So
cool.
Everybody make sure you check that out as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're down to our last question, and this is a tricky question given the state of performing arts, but we'll convey it anyway, and we don't need to go down the line, but people can weigh in on it. But what does the future hold? I mean, obviously, we all want live theater to come back, but is anybody working on anything? Maybe
I'm working on the rest of this margarita.
Okay, which appeared magically disappeared. But is there, I mean, I certainly Tamri, Catastrophic has announced its next season. So that's a big part of what the theater company is working on. But does anybody
I mean,
yeah,
we have there's a lot, actually. I feel very, very fortunate right now. We are very lucky to have people like Tim Thompson, who is a filmmaker in our family. And so we are able to produce some short films as part of our season, all original work. And then I am right now deep in the trenches of creating the Drama Squad, which is actually which is live theater that will come to your house. So there will be a team of actors who pull up to your house and perform in your yard, because desperate times, we got to bring you the arts right there, right to you. So yes, live theater and films. And then I'm still working on more episodic Tamri Cooper shows as well. So it's busy. We have more productions on our season than we would normally have in a traditional season for us. So it's exciting. Do I miss being in a regular theater space with all my wonderful friends and actors, of course. And I look forward to when we get back to that. But we have put safety up top for us. And so it's going to be a while. So I hope we can all find ways to reinvent and harness our creativity and put it into these different mediums until we can return. And some of this stuff I think we'll keep with us. So some of these new experiments, I think we'll continue to work in these other mediums. That's what I got going on. What do you got going on, Mateo? You're in LA.
Yeah.
I'm living the dream. I'm going to trying to get work. I'm recording a voice for a narrative podcast called Scenic Byways soon, and trying to figure out what to do to get out there, trying to do some voiceover and see what comes.
Do you have a fancy microphone like Javon?
Yeah, actually I've got, let's see, can I bring it in? I got a little,
oh wow, okay.
Blocks the thing. It's not as fancy as Javon's. I don't have one of those that's like suspended in midair by elastic cords.
I will check that out. Scenic Byways. I'll peep it.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm into
Scenic
podcasts.
Byways. Yeah, it's a nice one.
I'm gonna work with the kids that I teach at school, and everything's gonna be by Zoom. So I'm gonna figure out rehearsals by Zoom and performances by Zoom. So I'll tell you what it's like.
And also, I'm presently working as a census enumerator. So if there's anybody out there who hasn't filled out your census, go online, fill out your census, do your patriotic duty, and tell your friends. It's not that many questions. If somebody knocks on their door, just answer them. It's real quick, and it helps the country. Please,
yes,
do that.
Okay.
Did not.
With that passionate plea to civil responsibility, everybody vote, and everybody stay safe tonight.
Wait.
And Tamari's got something.
We gotta plug Hannah's book, man. She's
And the
got
book.
a great
Please talk about
novel.
Hannah's
When I
book.
saw that question, I
Novel
went
called
and
The
I
Sea.
grabbed it.
There we go.
Buy my
It's
book,
great.
please.
The sea.
I wrote a
Fun.
book.
It's such a great read. I loved
It's
it.
funny and sad,
Yeah.
just in the way you'd expect.
Yes.
I
Wonderful.
am
And
in.
Tara,
book.
what's going on with you?
Important
Tara, what do you got?
Brazos.
Well,
Excellent
so
book. Oh, Star.
no, I can't. The only thing I can plug is very particular. So I'm working on, Zoom adaptations of canceled shows, podcasts, and also a show that I wrote that I was gonna do, and maybe I'm gonna do for Zoom. But the only thing I can plug that you can actually see now requires like a headset. My company Piehole worked with the LA-based company Tender Claws on a virtual reality experience called The Under Presents, and it's available on the Oculus Quest. And we just found out that we're an Emmy finalist, not a nominee, a finalist, which is very exciting and just very surprising. So, but yeah, so if you have access to a VR headset, then check out The Under Presents.
Am I the only one thinking that it's hilarious that Piehole is collaborating with Tender Claws? Is that just me?
It's very 21st century. Yeah.
Okay.
We have shared sensibilities.
That's good.
I miss you all.
Oh,
I
you
miss you.
too.
I miss everybody.
Miss
All
all
you
y'all. Miss
people.
all y'all in Houston. Please stay safe.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna be okay. It's really
Oh,
our neighbors
yeah.
to the west of us from Beaumont and into western Louisiana that are gonna get hit hard tonight.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well, everyone take care. And again, everybody misses everybody on this particular call. And it's very true. It's tough not to be making art with good folks like y'all.
Yeah.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in to this discussion and for presumably watching the video and maybe watching the live version of the show 2.5 years ago. Look for
Available
more.
September 3rd.
Available through September 3rd. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Chana.
Wednesday.
Oh, just do your plugs.
That's really it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got a concert with Andrew Lynch next Wednesday. So please join us for more Leap.
Definitely.
All right. Okay, take care, everybody.
Nice to see you all.
Thank you, guys. It's good to
Yeah,
see you
so
guys
great.
again.
So great.